Roland, what is mulching? What's the purpose of mulching?
Mulching is simply applying either an inorganic or organic substance to the soil around the plants, and the objective can be one of several. You can either heat the soil up, cool it off, prevent weed growth, and of course you tend to stop or tremendously cut down the evaporation of moisture from the soil surface. So probably those four reasons would be the main ones.
Do you need to mulch everything in the garden then?
I think it's a good idea, really. You don't have to, no. But if you have sufficient mulching material available, particularly if it's the organic forms that shouldn't cost you too much, if anything at all, I'd use it on everything.
Well, is there some portion of the garden that you need to cool down the soil and some portion you need to increase the temperature of the soil?
Yes. For instance, right in back of us, the snow peas, we'll do best if the soil temperature is maintained in the low 60s at all times. So we mulched these 2 to 3 weeks ago, and that they've done very well the last week or two, even though the day temperatures have been high, simply because that soil has been held down in the 60s. It's quite cool under there still. At the tomatoes, we didn't apply the mulch here until last Friday and Saturday, because the soil had been cold and we wanted it to get up to between 70 and 75. So when the soil temperature got that warm, then we put the mulch on.
Let's talk about mulching materials.
Okay.
What do you recommend?
We use anything that's available, and of course the most easily obtainable organic mulch is fresh lawn clippings. And we apply those directly from the lawn onto the garden, because they, as they settle down and the surface dries out, it forms a mat and they don't blow away. So if you're going to use lawn clippings, use them fresh, green, right from the lawn. And then dry leaves and dried grass, you can either put that on if you've got a way to protect it from blowing away, like putting a layer of fresh clippings over it, or what we sometimes do is compost it for 2 to 3 weeks until it's, as you can see here, it's moist, it's heavy, it's in an advanced stage of decomposition, and then put it out on the garden and it will stay in place.
How do you prepare your compost?
Well, the thing that we do is we make a squarish sort of pile inside of an enclosure, and the enclosure can be shingles, or you can make a wooden enclosure, or some people actually do it in large garbage cans. We make a layer of the dry material and then wet it down very carefully, thoroughly. Put about 3 pounds of ammonium nitrate for every 100 pounds of dry organic material. And then we wet that down so as to dissolve that nitrogen into the material. Then put a layer of soil on top of it, and keep repeating this. And if you've got any fresh clippings that you can't use, you can put those in to accelerate that decomposition. If it's sufficiently moist, that will start to heat. The thermophilic bacteria will start to build up and generate extremely high heat, high temperature in the neighborhood of 140 to 160 degrees. You let this go for 2 or 3 days once it's started to heat, and then you break the pile open to let it cool, because you've pasteurized it all, you've killed all of the undesirable things in there, and the decomposition is well along. And then as soon as that cools, we let it go for another 2 weeks and then use it.
Is the compost desirable over grass clippings?
I wouldn't say one is more desirable than the other. It's more a matter of whatever you've got. I say that for my purpose, I like the grass clippings when I can get them and use them fresh, simply because it's easier, it's less work, and it does the same. You can compost right in the garden. There's a continual decomposition going on underneath that mulch at the soil surface.
How often do you replenish the fresh grass clippings on top?
About every week. We will take the lawn clippings and use them somewhere in the garden. Try to maintain a 2 to 3 inch deep layer of the mulch.
Does the plastic cover do the same thing as the fresh grass clippings?
In most cases, yes. The opaque or white and the black plastic inhibit weed growth. They keep the soil moisture in the soil, but of course they don't add any organic matter, and that's the big difference. The organic materials do increase your organic matter content of the soil, whereas the plastic does not. And all of the organic materials, I find, cool the soil, whereas the clear plastic and the black plastic tend to increase the soil temperature in the top 2 to 3 inches of soil. The white plastic, since it keeps out the heat radiation from the sun, most of it, it tends to keep the soil temperature stable or cool it.
How about, to save time, putting grass clippings down once and then put plastic over the top of that, and then that's it for the summer? Does it work that way?
Well, you could do that, but I don't think there's any need for it. The main reason being that once you put down the organic layer, if you have an insulating layer, and even if you put the plastic on top of it, you wouldn't get the effect of the, you wouldn't get that heating effect of the plastic. It would tend to keep it in place, and it's not a bad idea. But I either use one or the other. I tend to do that, yeah.